Hey guys, JJ back here. This time to chat on UCF versus Cincinnati. Game is going to be on Thursday, March 7th. Seeing the spread at UCF minus 2.5, open 3, total 126. Okay, so the loss finally came to the channel after ending a 5-game winning streak. Brings the channel down to still very robust, 13-4 against the spread. I'll tell you, quite the sweat though with the Florida LSU game. LSU came up big to tie it after a huge 3. From Florida to go up too late, and then overtime, a little bit of a botched last possession for Florida. But I'll tell you what you won't hear from me ever on this channel is apologizing after a loss. I see this from touts and handicappers all the time. Guy will go 3-2, basically pick up 0.8 of a unit, which ultimately would be a positive day. And yet this individual's message to his followers or the public will be, hey guys, went 3-2. I know I can do better than this. Back to the drawing board. I'll be back better tomorrow. Meanwhile, this individual cleared a unit or cleared nearly a unit. And should be cracking a beer, popping champagne. Rubbing one out in the shower. Getting back into his process. That granted himself positive results. I feel like not enough work is done in this industry to discuss the actual process. We live in such a results-oriented world. And deservedly so. The results are the biggest part, arguably of the entire shebang, if you will, in sports betting. But the process itself, I always have this argument with people. The process itself is, or at least at certain times, can be more impactful than the actual results. Because over time, you're going to see various successes and failures within your results. And it's really how you respond to those results in relation to your process where, is your process actually robust? Or are you going through somewhat of a lucky streak and you just don't realize it? You think your process is good. Let me create you a hypothetical. If I flip a coin 500 times, right? Just a typical heads, tails coin, right? Obviously 50-50 chance of it landing heads, landing tails. There's what I would consider a good chance during that 500 stretch flipping that 10 of those 500 flips will be the same side of coin at some point during those flips. So either you'll get 10 in a row heads or 10 in a row tails at some point during your 500 flips. Might not happen, but pretty confident that during a stretch run it most likely will. Now let's say you take a look at your process, right? And we'll continue down this hypothetical with the flipping of the coin, because ultimately, no matter how you do it, you're still going to be at 50% flipping that same coin, right? So now let's start right at the 90th flip, right? At the 90th flip, heads, 91 heads, 92 tails, all the way up to 99. So now 10 of your flips in a row have been heads. So you've had a stretch run of 3 on, 3 off, 3 on, 3 off, 2 on, 2 on, 1 on, 1 off, whatever. And once you got to 90, boom, you banged out 10 heads in a row. Now, let's dig this hypothetical even deeper. You had a friend come in who actually watched you right before you flipped the 90th for the 90th time. So your friend watched you flip heads 10 times in a row. And now your friend's going, "Whoa, this is pretty impressive. How'd you get to be heads 10 times in a row?" Now, in this scenario, this individual who doesn't even realize his process is nothing. His process is the same that it's always been. He's just a product of good variance. Says to his friend, I think I figured this out. I got, it's basically the way I flip it, the way I catch it at the right point. I basically just know what I'm doing flipping this coin. And now I'm at a point where I feel very confident that I can make sure it lands heads a lot of the time, a lot more than 50%, that's for sure. Then this individual goes on to flips 100 through 105 and rolls off tails, 5 straight times, basically putting his foot in his mouth. Why this analogy is important is because this is 99% of the touting and handicapping industry. It is people with failed processes, failed research strategies, people that love to follow the against the spread bullshit, how this team performs, under certain how this team performed under certain conditions 4 years ago, all these nonsense research things, and they think when they go through a stretch run of good variance where they're winning a lot more than they're losing, that magically all of a sudden my process got better, right? Me flipping the coin, I have the answer to flipping the coin now. Now, ultimately, we've had a good start to this channel with the wins. It's my job long term to prove to you guys that it's more than just that coin flipping for why this is. Now, my research and process has always been good. I've just never really presented it in video format to people. And obviously, you guys have followed this channel beginning from my dad, so you know where I'm getting it from. The process is so important, and it's more important to know that you have the right process. Okay, to me, let's take this Florida game for example. I want to be clear that if Florida lost this game by 30, or Florida lost the most recent game against LSU by 30, wouldn't even have blinked. I would have still known that Florida was the right play. I would have just caught the lower end of a small sample size, because at the end of the day, you're trying to predict a game in a one small sample size, and based off of a lot of different methods and methodologies to get you there. Like, for instance, what if I told you, how confident would you have been in this Florida game if I told you Florida was going to shoot 65% from the field? You would have been more confident than you were before I told you that, right? Or what if I told you Florida was going to go to the free throw line 36 times? You would have probably felt even more confident about Florida before the game started, right? Those would be on the higher end of the good variance. Like the Oklahoma blowout was on the positive end of variance. I liked Oklahoma because I got the favorable number. But, I mean, just because they blew them out doesn't mean that, oh my God, how'd you know they were going to blow them out? I didn't. I got a good number, and the bet worked out. But for me, the line was 3 or 4 points off. I was happy with the number I got, and I felt that I was good there. With regards to this Florida game, I felt very confident that the fact that I got them at pick. I had my models at Florida winning in that spot 58 to 60% of the time. You could argue that the end of that game could have went a bunch of different ways where Florida comes out on top. But regardless, I'm just trying to make it clear that your process is so important. Don't be so caught up on the results aspect of it. People, especially new followers might look at it and go, oh, a loss here, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Or, hey, look, he won a few games, he got lucky. I want to be clear, guys. My process is as robust or more robust than any handicapper you've ever seen. And I've learned from my father, so if you've seen him, you know where I'm getting it from. The whole point of this, this whole little beginning to the video is I want to be clear that you guys always have to be focusing on your process, making sure that's always better. And I can do different videos for you guys on the little things you can do to make that process better, to know what specific spots to pick. But I will tell you, less is more in this industry. Bet less, win more. And what I mean by that is you'll be impacted by the juice less. You'll be finding yourself, instead of betting maybe your 5 to 8 games that you're betting in a given night, trim that down, 3 to 4 games. Pick your 3 to 4 favorites out of those. If you're somebody who's betting multiple units on multiple games, only bet the games that you want to bet higher units on, and trim that back down to 1 unit. There's just so much volatility in this industry, and people really hurt themselves more than anything. Stay disciplined, stay stuck to your way, stay in your process, and look, long term, you'll be all right. And of course, watch the videos on this channel. It'll help you out there. Okay, so I hope that was a little informative for you. I always like to begin these videos with a little bit of a mini tutorial. But okay, so now let's dive into UCF Cincinnati, big game in the American Conference. Again, UCF -3, totals 126. This game has quite a lot of implications for the American Conference, which may very well see 4 teams come out into the big dance. I guess potentially 5, but more or less it'll wind up probably being 4. So UCF coming off their 3-game winning streak with their biggest win of the year, taking down Houston. I'll be honest, they don't have all this much time to celebrate, because now they turn around and now have to host Cincinnati, which winds up being a game of similar importance for them. But this game will be in their home gym. UCF has been quite a pleasant surprise to date so far. More or less begins with the true length and size of this squad. It's the 7th biggest team in D1 basketball. They also go to the free throw line 2nd most in Division I. This probably has a lot more to do with the fact that a lot of these teams incorporate this hack-a-shack method for some of these big men that can't shoot free throws. How could you blame them? Some of these guys on this team are ridiculously sized. Now, their free throw percentages, again, awful, because it's a lot of these big men shooting the free throws. But with enough opportunities, at some point, these turn into points long term, which has much been the case with UCF being like I said, the second most team in D1 with free throws. Overall, this is a very tough team to score on inside, ranked in the top 45 in D1 in defensive efficiency. D1 also against the 3 ball. Overall, very tough to score on this team in sustained runs. because of the strength of this team and the length of this team defensively. On the Cincinnati side, statistically, they're actually even better than UCF defensively, blocking a ton of shots, forcing a lot of turnovers, really slowing the game down, along with the length that they add on defense. Cincinnati is always really good defensively. Worth noting here, UCF is ranked 227th in possession time, or in average possession time, yet they are 310th in adjusted tempo. This is it's really more of a pace type of stat. But what does that mean? It means that they're conceding pace to slower teams. Cincinnati will fit the bill there, being 327th in average possession time and 345th in pace. This game will be played at an absolute molasses pace. It actually reminds me a lot of the Bradley Valpo game I gave you guys out in under last week, with how these two teams kind of match up and their average pace. The pace that I'm referencing was on display when these two teams met on February 21st in a game that the final score was 60-55, despite 21 points being scored in the last 4 minutes and 30 seconds. But it's not just the final score that I'm looking at. It's that overall pace that I keep referencing. Total of only 97 shots with only 19 free throw attempts, 31 combined turnovers, and the shooting percentage of both these teams wasn't even that bad, as both of them shot nearly 50% from three-point range. So what we have here is an opening number that's wildly high for me. And I already referenced that. It reminds me of that Valpo-Bradley game that I felt like opened a bunch of points high. It actually finished under by about 20 points. But two teams, snail-like pace with adjusted tempos, that play much better defense than offense. Despite UCF getting to the free throw line as often as they do, they are one of the worst in the league at converting there. So not a big scare for me from the free throw side of things. Since he's in the middle of the pack from the free throw line themselves, so many factors for this game indicate this line being about 4 to 5 points off. Again, if I was capping this game, for me capping this game, it's about 122 total. So the fact that I'm seeing 126 to me is just a wildly favorable number. But just because you see this number and I tell you I cap it at 122, that does not mean as this line goes down, you continue to bet it above anything above 122. We are betting favorable numbers here, numbers where we feel like we have a 60% edge. At 126, we have that 60% edge. So that's where you want to bet it under. I'm seeing a little bit of 125.5. I don't mind it, but now 125.5 brings me down to about 58, 59% for hitting. But 125.5 I'm okay with. But again, 126 is really what I'm looking for. It's what you'll see now. So bet this game early. This game will be going south. I mean, this number will be going south. I would be absolutely floored if this total began to go north because, again, I like to do these on this channel often with these videos. I have really good foresight with the market, with the way these numbers will move. And that comes down to ultimately just a lot of good research. There is very little that indicates this number should be going up. A lot of factors in that 126 will be the best number you can get. So grab that while you can. Again, that's under 126, UCF versus Cincinnati. I want to add in one more crucial factor here. Nice crucial, no pun intended, but I'm going to use crucial again. This game is absolutely crucial to both these teams. Try to really finish out the American Conference with, close to the top. So defense will be elevated in a game like this. Possessions will be more crucial. There's that word again. Nerves will most certainly be present, and turnovers will be frequent. These are the exact type of spots you want to grab unders with. Again, could the game go over? Of course it could. We're talking favorable numbers here. 126 is extremely favorable to go under. These two teams would absolutely have to shoot the lights out, which they kind of did the first time they played, and it still went under by 12 points. It was that total was 127. This is 126, but that even went under. So again, very favorable. UCF Central Florida versus Cincinnati under 126. Want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Always trying to provide you guys with good content. Feel free to drop a comment below if you have any comments on the game or anything on the analogy and some of the sports betting tips I like to give in the front of these videos. Always love the comments. Always love responding to them. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And again, I'm trying to get you guys videos here daily. As we get into the conference tournaments and obviously March Madness, you'll be having more and more videos with free info, and also do some videos on getting you guys to become overall better sports bettors, not just me giving you the picks. So again, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon.